not far away. Let's talk story. It's where my mama was born, it's where I come from, it's where my daddy fell in love not long ago.
Aloha, everyone. This is Larry Camp, and welcome to the Nobody Knows Your Story podcast, which just happens to come with a side of Hawaiiana. Nobody Knows Your Story is a podcast which I believe will impact each listener in a positive way. As you listen to the experiences that have transformed, shaped, and guided each guest, perhaps you'll better understand your own personal journey. Some will surprise, some will make you question, and some will inspire, but all will leave you in a better place for listening in. As for the Hawaiiana, well, that's just a big part of my life story. So I invite you to check in from time to time, or better still, add Nobody Knows Your Story to your list of favorite podcasts. You'll enjoy hearing the life experiences of people just like you. Hey, aloha everyone, and thanks for checking in to hear the amazing story of the Mindful Meerkat, also known as Debbie Harfield. Now, we just heard Stick Figure perform Sound of the Sea, and mid-podcast, we're going to hear Feel Like a Kid Again from Lion Faya. Please support these great artists and all of the musicians you hear on the podcast by purchasing their music. As I've said many times before, these folks are well known in the islands, but you get away from Hawaii, Polynesia, the west coast of the United States, and a lot of folks don't know who these musicians are. And they're great, but they need your support. Okay, so we're going to hear today the story of Debbie Harfield. And, she's joining us from Ammanford, Carmarthenshire, Wales. Hopefully I got that right. And, somehow she found my website, and we'll talk about that a little bit, and she sent me a message wanting to, share her story. So after reading her background a little bit and learning a little bit about Debbie, I thought, you know what? This is going to be super interesting, and it's going to be interesting for all of you listeners out there. So Debbie, welcome to Nobody Knows Your Story.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Did I pronounce the name of your town,
you
city, area?
You did it well. Yeah.
All right. So, I guess it's interesting to me how someone in Wales found my website. How did that happen?
I was just looking at different podcasts.
Okay.
And found you. And you seemed very, very interesting. So I wanted to contact you.
Well, that's fun. It's fun for me because I know I get reports, that from the site that I use for putting my podcast out there, and it tells me that I'm in 45 countries, I think, where people have either listened in the past or are currently listening. And so, it's mind-boggling when you think about it, though, that I'm sitting here in far southern Utah, like I told you earlier, about an hour 45 from Las Vegas, Nevada. And there's people in Iceland and Japan and in Korea and Wales listening to the podcast. So, it is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange how the world has been opened up by technology.
For sure. And and your story, the little that I know about it, because I just did a little bit of research and went to your website and different things. And I mean, I have questions for you, but I want to let you
Mhm.
tell your story. And as we get rolling, I'm sure I'll ask those questions. But let's just start off maybe with how you ended up in Wales, because I know you were born in England.
Yeah, I was born in Southampton. I lived in Southampton till I was 11. So just doing what you do at that age. And then my mum got really into horses and horse riding, but where we lived was quite built up. So there wasn't anywhere to keep that she could keep horses like at our house or anything. We had to keep them away from us. So she found a house in Wales and moved us all there so she could keep her horses. And that was her childhood dream to be able to have her own horse. And she's lived it. And she's had many horses since.
Well, to give us an idea of the geography, where is Wales compared to where you were in England?
I was right at the southern bit of England. So when you're looking at the map, it's right at the bottom. And then Wales is over to the west. It depends how you're looking at it. Over to the side, it's about 5 hour drive away. Now I know that probably doesn't seem a lot to people in America. But to us in the UK, it's a long drive.
That's so true because I will jump in my car. People that listen to the podcast know I play softball, and we will often drive to a tournament that is 6 or 7 or 10 hours away. Like for us to drive from here where I live to Colorado, where we're playing this summer, is 10 hours. I mean, it's a bit of a drive, but we don't really hesitate to do it. So, yeah, for you to do that, you're crossing
That's
countries and
like,
borders.
yeah, going to different country. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a change moving from, well, at 11, it's a big change anyway if you move. I went from what it was called for me was middle school. So it was between the ages of 8 and 12,
Hmm.
that school. And I moved from middle school into secondary school, which was 11 to 18. So, I went from where you had one teacher teaching you all your subjects into the school where you go round. The children move to different teachers, move to the classes. I don't know what that equivalent is for you, but we moved in the February and it was just on our half term. So that's where it's a week off school. So I finished one week in a like middle school with one teacher, like week off, and then went into like the big school where
Yeah.
it's like big pressure. That was a massive change.
Yeah. All of a sudden there's boys walking the halls with mustaches and beards and things. And
Yes.
before that you were just in school with small children. So yeah, that's a huge
And
change.
and I went from having being at the top of the school, like to being one of the youngest in the school, and also having people speak in a different language. It was a bilingual school, so majority spoke in English, but a lot of people went through school speaking Welsh. So
Which is super interesting because like you say, you're talking 5 hours away, yet there's a different language.
yeah,
And to be honest, I'd forgotten that, even though I told you my family's from Wales, my dad's side. But I'd forgotten that people in Wales. Now, explain this to me because I just don't know. Is Welsh similar to English?
not at all. Not at
Interesting.
all.
Yeah.
It's a Celtic language. It's similar to like Irish Gaelic and Scottish Gaelic. It's those sort of languages, and Cornish. They're all similar, but it's not similar to English. There's extra vowels in Welsh, and you have some letters are double, like they're what in English would be a double letter. So, and it's just very confusing. And then they have this thing called mutations, where if you say a certain word, it can change how another word is said. And it's just really confusing. And you can imagine that at 11.
Yeah, and I think you said that when you're in school there, isn't it required that you take Welsh?
Yes. Yeah. Luckily for me, since I was at school, they've now started that the nursery classes and the first few classes are Welsh, mainly Welsh class. And then if you want to, they can go into the English stream or the Welsh stream. But when I started, it was because of my age, I just went straight into the English bit.
This podcast, I have a little bit of a Hawaiian theme, and I've mentioned that in Hawaii, the language was kind of dying out. There were becoming less and less speakers of the Hawaiian language. In the last 20, 30 years, there's kind of been a resurgence where now they have some Hawaiian immersion schools where they teach and speak in all just Hawaiian. Is that similar? I mean,
Yeah.
was Welsh kind of dying out, but now maybe there's a resurgence or?
There is a resurgence, and at like years ago, people were told off for speaking Welsh in school, but now it's the other way round. There's schools that are Welsh medium only, and the children can't speak English while they're at school. So it's like totally the other way now.
Yeah, very similar to what I just described.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I know you have two sons. Do they speak Welsh?
No.
Okay.
Um, because I went to university in England. I met their dad while I was there. They were born in England, and I split up from their dad and we came back to Wales, but I didn't think it was fair for them to just go straight in to the Welsh speaking. And unfortunately, they've not kept it. They learned a lot at school, more than they would let me know, but I know they knew more because they understood things when the teachers were saying them that I didn't have a clue about. And but they've lost it now. They've
Yeah.
lost it, unfortunately.
Well, we got a little bit ahead there, but let's kind of talk about when you, I guess, made that move to Wales, and you're 11, so that's kind of a time in life that's where we're starting to be self-conscious, maybe of
Mm,
that we're different because here you're the new kid now, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, how was that for you, and how was school? How was school from the time you moved there, maybe until you finished your we'd call it high school here, but is it secondary school or?
Yeah, secondary school. It's called a lot of things here. Secondary school, comprehensive school, it's like it's called a lot of different things
Yeah,
depending where you are. Some places will call it high school, the
yeah,
same as
and those
you.
can be tough years
Um,
for anyone, right? So
yeah,
especially if you've
but
just made a
really
move.
hard. And like I said, I moved over a half term. So I moved there in February. So all the children in my year had been there since September, even if they hadn't been to the same primary school, middle school as everyone else. They'd known each other since September. And then I come in, this strange person from England. It was very odd. They spoke in a different accent. We were learning things that I hadn't been learning before. And it was like I was just dropped into this alien world.
Hmm. Yeah.
And also because I had to learn the new way for me of going to different classrooms for different lessons. I wasn't used to that at all. We also had to catch the bus to school, whereas before I'd walk to school. So it's like everything was so different.
Now,
Everything was
do you have any
different.
siblings?
I do. I have older siblings. My brother's 3 years older than me. My sister's just under 2 years older than me.
Okay, so they made the move with you, I
They
assume,
made
and
the move with
yep.
me, and it was hard for them as well.
Hmm.
maybe harder because my brother went straight into, I think, doing like the courses for his exam. It's like the GCSEs that we have here, which are the end of year 11.
All right. So,
So,
so it was a family move then to Wales,
mm,
and I always ask this question: was your family religious at all?
no,
Okay, so that wasn't
no.
a component because we moved a lot. My family moved a lot when I was growing up. I was in a number of elementary schools. I mean, gosh, I moved to Salt Lake City when I started high school. But everywhere we moved, because we were I was brought up in a high demand religion. We immediately, the very first Sunday, went to that new church, and so you started making friends and community and things like that. So when you move and you're not part of a religious group, well, maybe it's a little slower process because you don't have that built-in community right off the bat. So you guys kind of turned to each other. I'm sure you did a lot of things as a family, probably initially, until you started developing
Yeah.
friendships.
Yeah, even though my brother and sister wouldn't talk to me at school because I was their embarrassing younger sister. So it's like I'd see them in the hallways and they'd be like, "No, don't talk to us, don't talk to us." But I was 11, they were like 13 and 14, so they're not going to want me around. Yeah, it was hard, and we were lucky, though, in a way, having to go on the school bus because we met people at the bus stop. We spoke to people, like after a few days, we'd get to know people on the bus. So that helped, but they
Hmm.
weren't necessarily the people we were in classes with.
Sure.
But it was like nice to know a face around the school.
Now, I know you talked about your mom and her interest in horses. Did you have opportunities to get involved with horses and things as well when you moved to Wales?
It wasn't my interest. My mum says it was my fault because I wanted to go. A friend of mine in England, she was going horse riding, and I wanted to go. So we all went horse riding. I didn't want to do it after the first go, but my mum and my sister carried on.
Okay.
So my mum says the whole move to Wales was my fault.
You started them down the path.
I did start them. But like I said, it had been my mum's dream since she was a little girl. So it was always there.
Yeah.
I think it was always going to happen.
Well, so during those years, then I guess of the move to Wales until you finished school at maybe 18, what were some of the interests that you had during those years?
I liked dancing and singing and all of that stuff. You
Okay.
know, when we were in England, I'd gone to lots of dance classes, ballet and tap and all of that stuff, and absolutely loved it. But when we moved to Wales, I couldn't find the same, it wasn't the same because it wasn't the same teachers I'd had before, it wasn't the same children in the classes. It was so different. I didn't want to carry on with it then, but I still enjoyed it. I stopped going to school when I was 16 and I went to college to do like a performing arts course.
Okay.
And that was more me.
Yeah. So performing arts, would that have been the dance then and the singing and
Yeah,
things like that?
yeah, dance and singing and acting.
What kind of music did you like during those years? I mean, did you like rock and roll or did you like more, like show tunes? What
Oh,
kind of?
show tunes, musicals.
Okay.
Absolutely love musicals. I still do. Still do.
Yeah. So
Loving Wicked at the moment.
I was just going to say, have you been to see the new movie Wicked yet?
Love it. Absolutely love it.
I was going to.
Disappointed it's in two halves because I want to see it all.
That's exactly right. I was just going to say, my wife took my daughter to Chicago to see the play. Gosh, when I think my daughter was 9 years old, and she's like 28 now, so a long time ago. And so my daughter would listen to the soundtrack to Wicked all the time when we were in our van or on trips or whatever. And so I was familiar with some of the songs, like Popular and different things,
Yeah.
even though I'd never seen the play. So I went with my wife just last week and saw the movie. Now I understand a little bit of the
Yeah.
backstory and all that. I do get it now. I know what it's about, and I enjoyed it. Yeah, part two is yet to come.
Yeah, I just wish they hadn't cut it in two because now I'm just like, I gotta wait a year.
Yeah, pretty smart of them though, because look at all the extra money they're going to make.
Yes, yeah. And I imagine that there's going to be loads of people going to see it, like in the theatre in between.
Hmm.
People who haven't seen it before.
Yeah,
Because
like
they,
me.
they want to know what happens next, don't they?
Oh yeah. Well, you're right, and I hadn't thought about that, but maybe they will do something. I don't know. I mean, it's again, these things are driven by finances and about, it is a business. So,
Yeah,
I mean, who knows what their plan is, but they definitely have a plan.
yes.
Let's back up. You said you went to college. You went off at 16. That's
But
early, isn't it?
college to us is further education. So it's like 16 to 18. It's the same as doing your A levels or whatever you have there.
Okay.
And then at 18, you go to university, which is what you call college.
Yep. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? The semantics. I mean, we just get these things, but I am learning that because I've talked to enough people outside of the United States now. I am kind of
Yeah.
learning that it's university when you go to what we
Yeah.
call college or
Yeah.
university. I mean, right? Okay, so 16 to 18 is kind of just the last couple of years prior to
Of,
university.
yeah. Yeah. So over here, it's like you can finish school at 16. Or it used to be when I was growing up, you could finish at 16. Now they want everyone to stay till they're 18. But you could either go and get an apprenticeship, you could go to college, what I call college, or you could get a job at 16. So I went to college to do a BTEC in performing arts
Okay, then you
and
finished that
singing
at
dance.
18,
Finished that at 18.
and then I believe you went to university, right?
I did go to university.
And
I
that was
went
back in
there.
England.
I went back to England, yeah, but up to the other end of England because I was born in Southampton, right at the bottom. And I went to Hull University, and that's in the north of England.
Would that be like maybe 3 hours to the north of Southampton?
I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it would be like 3 or 4 hours.
Okay. All right. And that's where you met your husband.
My husband, my ex-husband now, but yeah, that's where I met him. But I didn't meet him like in lectures or anything. Met him in a nightclub, as you do.
Right. I
As you do
understand.
as a student, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's okay. Met my wife at a swimming pool. So while I was in college or university. Yeah.
yeah.
So that
So yeah,
happens. I mean, you're out being social, right?
yeah. And that was in like the first month or two I was there. I met him.
How many years were you at university then?
I was there for 4 years. I started doing a degree in American studies because part of that was going to America for a year.
Oh,
But I got married and I got pregnant, and I wasn't allowed to go to America when I was pregnant because of like the medical side of things.
sure.
It would have been too difficult to organize and stuff like that. So I then had to join my American studies with something else. And I did American studies and gender studies.
Okay. Now,
So,
you didn't take that into your profession though, did you?
no,
Yeah, because
no,
from what I
I
read,
don't do
I don't remember reading anything
anything.
about that.
No. Basically, I needed to join. They gave me an option of joining it with English, and I already was doing a lot of American literature, so I had loads of books to read. They said I could join it with history. Well, again, that was a lot of stuff that I was going to have to read and learn, and they said I could join it with drama, but I thought, well, having a baby, I'm not going to be able to like do all the shows and stuff. So gender studies at the time was the easiest option to do when I knew I was going to have a newborn baby with
Yeah.
me, So that's why I did it. But I found it really interesting because I looked at everything because obviously we were learning about how men and women fit into the world. I was looking at it all on the male side because I was like, well, I know from my experience what it's like to be female. I don't know what it's like to be male, and I've just had a boy. So I want to find out what the
Sure.
world's going to be like for him. So it was quite interesting.
Even though you didn't pursue a career from your studies, that's not unusual. I only did my career. I mean, I graduated in communications with a emphasis on, broadcasting, sports broadcasting, and I did that for like less than a year. But I look at the university experience though as just a time of life, usually between maybe 18 and 22, or in my case, a little longer. Those years are so formative in terms of,
Mm.
for many of us, it was the first time really leaving home and kind of getting out on your own, and you're making new friends. And I really enjoyed it. I look back because some people are like, well, gosh, you didn't really stay in broadcasting very long. I mean, yeah, but it was still a great experience and I still enjoyed it very much. So is it something that I would say everybody needs to do? No, not really. I mean, if you have like you said, some kids, especially back when you were in school at 16, they would go into an apprenticeship or something like
Yeah.
that. And if you have an interest in plumbing or to become an electrician or to do any construction work, that's a good avenue to get into when you're young, because I remember having friends of mine that did that, and they're buying homes and doing things when I was still in college. I was still in university making a few dollars an hour working part time to try to survive. And here they are moving up in life, getting homes and cars and
Mm.
families. And I kind of looked at that and thought, man, did I make the wrong choice here? But anyway, it's a fun time of life is what I'm saying. There's lots of opportunities.
Oh, definitely. But I wouldn't recommend people maybe do what I did, which was go to uni, get married, have a baby, have another baby, get my degree and get a divorce and then go back to Wales.
Yeah, but you know what? That's life. That is, I've talked to now probably almost 140 people on this podcast. There is no one way to do
No.
life.
I keep thinking back to the days when we were young. We used to play all day until the sun went down. Ride a bike, fly a kite, take a walk or run. Not a care in all the world, man, life was fun. And mama would bring us to the sandy seashores, and daddy would probably see me ride my surfboard. And grandma loved us all, but she loved me more. At least that's what she told me when I was 4. Speeded up 6 years to the age of 10. Went to school just to cruise with my classmates then. We used to laugh after class in the hallways and strolling home with the crew of my closest friends. And dinner was ready at 5:30 sharp. The whole family was there to pray before we start. Thinking of those times nowadays is hard, though it's close to my heart, Lord, it seems so far. So let's turn back time when it was simple and kind. Said we never knew wrong and we never know better, but right now I wanted to feel like a kid again. 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 Right now I wanted to feel like a kid again. Let me take you to a time when we were 12 years old. All my friends shared secrets that I still ain't told, and all I could dream of was a girl to hold. Puppy love like a dove, saw her arms unfold. Took a hit from a spliff when I was just 13, while listening to the music of Bob Marley. Yes, everything nice, everything I read, because this is growing up in a Hawaiian style. Walking through, never knew how to do high school, but I always studied hard, never played the fool, except the times that we could class and I did school too. Meet at my girlfriend's house, so catch bus number 2. I remember how fun it was to turn 18, and the feeling of chasing after all my dreams. Never known which path would be best for me. I pray the mistakes that I made don't follow me. So let's turn back time when it was simple and kind. Said we never knew wrong and we never known better, but right now I'm wanting to feel like a kid again. 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 Right now I'm wanting to feel like a kid again. Time sure flies, how long has it been? We lost dear grandpa and grandma with him, and uncle too soon went to his heaven. I wish I could have tell them how much I love them. There's no more dinners at grandma's place, cause the next generation got a different taste. Pay $10 whole for a parking space. Everything's sky high on the minimum wage, and kids nowadays don't know what's fun. Getting lost in the web, they never seen the sun. And whatever happened to the dog I found? Cause mom made me give it to the local pound. I made so much friends, some come and go, some twisted the script and became my foes. But there is one thing that we all know, said you reap what you sow, that's how life goes. So let's turn back time when it was simple and kind. Said we never knew wrong and we never known better, but right now I'm wanting to feel like a kid again. 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 Right now I'm wanting to feel like a kid again.
And we're about to talk about some of the changes that happened to you once you came back to Wales. You're divorced now. You have 2 sons, and here you are in Wales. I don't know at what point some of the things that kind of directed or changed the direction of your life started to happen. And you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that. Let me see if I say it right. Is it agoraphobia?
I would say agoraphobia.
Okay, agoraphobia.
You said it as it's spelled.
Yeah, I did. And that's exactly right. But that developed at some point.
Yeah. I think it developed sooner than I realised, because it was during lockdown, the COVID lockdowns, that it really affected me severely, because I couldn't go out of the house. But looking into it and researching it, I've had some of the symptoms of it for years and years, the anxiety and the panic attacks. I had those years before and was dealing with them as separate issues, whereas really it should have all come under the umbrella of the agoraphobia.
Yeah. And I guess, like you say, it really manifested itself during COVID.
Yes. And it literally, after a couple of weeks of lockdown, I couldn't even open the front door without having a panic attack.
I read a little bit about some of the things of agoraphobia, and I guess it's fear of crowds, but it also can be, like you say, cause some anxiety even being by yourself, or like you say, a knock at the door.
Yeah.
But then it also affects your family and friends as well.
Yeah. My partner, he didn't realise how much I do because he was then having to do it.
Mm-hmm.
All the things that were outside of the house, he was having to do. Little things like putting the bins out for bin collection. those sort of things,
Hmm. Yeah.
just taking things outside. I
Yeah,
couldn't
because
do it.
you're right. Just taking the garbage out to, like you said, to
Yeah,
the bin, that is something that caused you anxiety. And so
yeah,
that now fell on your partner. So
yeah.
yeah.
And it wasn't nice for my boys to see either. Even though they're adults now, they're still living at home because it's too expensive to move out. Yeah, it was difficult because I totally changed. My attitude and personality it was different because I was just staying at home and I didn't want to do anything.
During COVID, a lot of times it was maybe in some ways easier
Mm,
to deal with your agoraphobia because we weren't bringing people into our homes at that time.
no,
But then
no.
COVID ended. And I guess the next question I had was it difficult then maybe for them to bring friends over or whatever because
Mm.
that was uncomfortable for you, right?
It was just the whole thing. The whole thing. It's like the house was my safe space, and I didn't want anything to affect that. And a big thing with agoraphobia is being able to see a way you can get out of a situation. So if you were in a room, you need to, well, for me, I need to know where the door is. I need to know. I can't be somewhere without knowing how I can get out of it.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't want to go outside, I still needed to be able to go out of the room or get
Hmm.
myself upstairs without being stopped. So other people coming in was a no, it wasn't going to happen.
Would it have caused you anxiety or stress to do what we're doing right now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to speak to you.
Okay.
It's crazy how your mind works and what defense mechanisms they put in, because it's not always conscious things that you're doing. It's a lot of it is subconscious, and it's just a way to protect yourself.
So now we know what you were doing or not doing when this was going on. How did that change to where now you could, like, I know that you now travel and will give talks to groups of people.
Yeah.
Sounds like you went and saw Wicked in the movie theater. So I mean, those are things you could never have done just a couple
No,
of
no,
years
no,
ago.
no.
So how did you get from there to where you are now?
In the UK, there's a charity called Mind, and it's all to do with mental health. And then in Wales, they've got an offshoot of it called Mind Cymru. Cymru is Wales in Welsh. So Mind Cymru, they were running a program called, oh, I can't remember what it was called, Supported Self-Help now. Basically, they would ring you and chat to you for 20 minutes and give you some tips on what you could do to get out of the situation you were in. And they'd send you over documents. And one of the ones they sent me was all about mindfulness. It really helped me. And so I looked a lot more into mindfulness and was using loads of mindfulness exercises to help me escape my house.
How would you define mindfulness?
To me, it's giving a focus on one thing and one thing only. So it's like we're taught a lot growing up about multitasking, getting yourself to be able to do two or three things at the same time, whereas mindfulness spins that on its head and gets you to focus on one thing. So it could be you're focusing on your breathing, and that's all you're concentrating on is breathing. And then you'll be able to breathe and walk, and then you'll be able to do more in that sense. So it was just a way of focusing.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So it was just
I,
like steps. You started
yeah,
with maybe something very basic, like you said, like breathing or
yeah,
something. And then once you've kind of comfortable with that, then maybe you move on to another step and so on.
yeah. Yeah, because one of the things I got told to do was just let myself feel whatever I was feeling. Because if I let myself feel it, it would go. Whereas if I was trying to stop feeling it, it would stay. So it's like if you don't want to feel panicked, let yourself feel panicked and the panic will go, rather than going, I don't want to feel panicked, I don't want to feel panicked, and just keeping that panic there. So
Hmm.
that was one of the really good things I got taught. And another one was fact or opinion. Is the thing I'm thinking about a fact? Is there evidence to back it up? Or is it just my brain making things up? If you can't find the evidence, then the chances are there isn't any. Because it's usually things like with the panicking, oh my goodness, if I open the door, something bad's going to happen. Well, what's going to happen? How do you know something's bad going to happen? Has it happened before? And usually there's no. It's like the answers are all like, well, no, I'm just catastrophizing and making it up in my head.
Yeah. A lot of times that comes from watching things on television. And then we're like, oh, well, that could happen to me.
Yeah,
And I read something the other day that said 90% of the things that we worry about never even happen.
yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
And it's just a case of you tell yourself these things, and in a way, because you've told yourself these things, you believe it then, because you're not going to lie to yourself, are you?
Right. Not
You know,
intentionally.
not intentionally. You're not going to lie to yourself,
Yeah.
you know, but you are. You are lying to yourself every time that you tell yourself something like bad's going to happen if you don't do this or if you do that. It's really, our minds are so powerful that we can trick ourselves all the time. That's basically what I was doing with the becoming severely agoraphobic. I had it in my head. If I went outside, it would be a disaster. You know, because I wasn't worried by COVID at all. It was just on our news, we were being told to stay indoors, stay safe, and save the NHS. And so in my head, if I went out, I wasn't staying safe and I wasn't saving the NHS. And if the NHS went down, boom, who was going to look after the ill people? You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't true, but that's how my mind was working.
Yeah. You were doing your part by staying home.
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously, I'm glad that you've been able to get beyond that.
yeah.
Do you feel like you're 100% back to where you were, or you're still kind of on the path?
I think I'm always going to be like, this is something I'm going to have to be dealing with. I think there's always a chance that my brain could flip its switch and say, disasters come in and stuff. So I got to work hard at it. But I use mindfulness all the time now. It's just part of my day, it's part of what I do.
Which I would think would help stave off some of the
Mm.
potential to regress and go back.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that's if nothing else, that's a great tool to have in your toolbox, so to speak.
yeah. And in a strange way, I am really grateful that it happened because it's changed me for the better. I've learned so much about who I am because I would still have the anxiety and the panic attacks, but I wouldn't know why now. But I know why now. Um, I've learned ways of dealing with them, and I can help other people now because I know I've looked into it a lot. I've researched it. I've read so much now that I can help people, and I've lived it. It's not like somebody who's not lived it saying, do this, do that, do the other. I've lived through it.
Yeah. So your information when you talk to people is a lot more credible because they're like, Debbie's been there. She knows what I'm going through, as opposed to somebody
Yeah.
that just read something in a textbook.
Well, I suppose in a way it's the same when, you know, in drug rehabilitation and stuff like that, they usually have ex-addicts come in and speak to people, don't they?
Sure.
And say, look, this is what I did. And they get more response than the people running the place because they've not been there,
Right.
you know. So people will tend to like take it from someone who's been there.
Yeah. And to me, that makes total sense because um, you're able to listen to when somebody says something to you, but when you see that person and know that they have been where you are, that just
Yeah.
there's just more credibility there.
Yeah.
There was something else I was going to ask you about. Gosh, slipped my mind. I can't remember now, but let's just talk about what you're doing now for work or for enjoyment. What are some of the things that you're doing at this point in your life?
Okay, so I am getting really into spiritual things now and all the tarot cards and the crystals and
That was
stuff
it.
like
That was the thing I was going to ask you about. That's
that.
the thing that slipped my mind. I was going to ask you about that because that's different. That's not something that
Yeah,
everybody's into. So,
no.
yeah, just take
Um,
5 minutes and talk about that a little bit.
well, I have started trying to live following the moon cycles, which sounds really strange, I know, but it's like when there's a full moon, I'll be thinking about all the things that I have done in the last month that I'm really proud of and that have really helped me and made me feel good. And also thinking of anything that I just want to let go of as well. So it's like my celebrations and what I want to let go of. And then on a new moon, I'll be thinking about all the things that I want to do. I want to get done. So like my dreams and it's things like what do I want to do in the next month, but also what do I want to do in my life, you know? And I'll be thinking about those things then. And when it's after a full moon, there's a waning moon where you kind of don't have as much energy. And so I will be slowing down and resting a bit during that time. And then after a new moon, it's your waxing moon where you get really loads of energy. So I will try after that to do everything that I need to do and live like that. So I know that I've got a couple of weeks of loads and loads of energy, and then a couple of weeks where I need to slow it down a little bit. And I try and live like that because we're cyclical beings anyway. That's how we should be living. It's why we go to bed when it's dark
Right.
because we need to rest. So it's like you can follow the cycle of the 24 hours, you can follow the cycle of the moon. Women can follow their menstrual cycle because similarly to the moon, there'd be days when you're energetic, days when you really need to rest, days where you want to do scream at everyone, and days where you really, really love everyone. You know, it's just a natural cycle and a way of living. And I just find it really helps me. You know, if I know when I'm going to be like, oh, there's going to be a slump in my energy, I'm not going to plan to do anything that's really energetic.
Okay. So that's kind of an individual thing that you're doing now.
Mm,
What about
yeah.
the tarot cards? That involves other people, does it not?
Yes. Yeah. Well, it can, and it can involve yourself. You know, you can do it for yourself and you can do it with other people. I go to like every Sunday, I go to this Sunday circle and it's a group of women. It's all online and we talk about tarot cards, we do some journaling together and set the world to rights, really. as people do when they get together. But yeah, tarot cards, I find if you use them properly and if you're respectful, you can get a lot out of them. I don't think they can like predict the future or anything like that. I just think they can help you make sense of things that are going on in your life.
Well, and you found a little bit of a community in that now too. So,
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
back to what we were talking about, the importance of community and
Yeah.
friendships and things like that, and things that you have in common, maybe with some other folks,
Yeah.
and that brings enjoyment in life.
Which I'd never have done when I during lockdown, when I was really agoraphobic. Absolutely no way. And even when I did start going, I would have the camera off. I wouldn't want anyone to see me, like on the calls. I'd be there, but with no camera.
Yeah, well, that's where the mindfulness has helped you
Yeah,
out.
definitely. And I would recommend that to everyone. Mindfulness. And to just be yourself. You know, we're all so different that it's no point, you know, you can tie yourself up in knots trying to be like other people.
Yeah, yeah. As a
And
matter
I
of fact,
think I've reached the point now where it's like, I'm pretty okay. I'm quite happy being me.
yeah, you've kind of found your authentic
Yeah.
self, and
Yeah.
you're comfortable with that, and I
Yes.
think that, and maybe that's part of getting older. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
older than you are, but my point is that I care what people think, but not really.
Yeah.
You know
I,
what I
I
mean?
don't want to upset people. I don't want to be somebody that people feel badly about or
Yeah.
think badly about, but I'm not going to try and be someone else to make people happy. You
Hmm.
know, I've got to be happy first before I can be help somebody else.
Yeah. Here, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm not sure I've asked very many people before. What is your take on what happens after this life?
Oof, that one's quite difficult because a lot of people think differently, but I think it would be, I think there's something else out there. I think that our bodies obviously go, you know, we've used this body, but I don't think that means that our spirit or our soul has disappeared. I just think we go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Don't know where.
Yeah, I threw that at you. That's kind of was a shot out of nowhere, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I, because I have changed the way I think, and I now align with exactly what you just said. I mean, I'm hopeful, right? I'm very hopeful, but I do think that there's something after this life. I don't know what that is, but I will tell you this: I do think it's important to get enjoyment in this life and do all you
Oh,
can,
definitely.
because maybe there is nothing. I mean, this could be it. So I don't know, but I'm hopeful.
I just think that I don't know if you've ever seen it, but you get some children that are very old souls. They're very old souls, and it's like, you've done this before. It just seems like they've done it before. And then there's other people who are just like so in awe of everything, you know, everything. They've never seen it before, you know, and it's like, how is that child just so chilled and like, you know, yeah, this will be all right. And the other one's like, wow, you know, without there having been something else,
Yeah. And a lot of times
you
you'll see
know.
that within the same family, right? Children can
Yeah,
be vastly different.
yeah, you know, and it's crazy. And some kids, they come out with the strangest things like, oh yeah, I did that with my other mum. And it's like, what? What other mum?
Yeah. Hey, have you done
Yeah.
much traveling?
No, I am going on a plane for the first time next year.
I still run into people who've never been on a plane. So we kind of
I've
think
just,
that everybody
yeah,
has, but that's not the case.
I've not had the opportunity. It's not that I haven't wanted to. I
Hmm.
mean, I've been abroad when I was younger. We went to Spain and France and things, but we went on a boat.
Right.
We didn't go on a plane. Yeah, we went on a boat. So I didn't get to go on a plane then. And then growing up, we'd moved to Wales. We did everything round there. And then after divorcing, I didn't have the money to take my boys abroad or anything. So it just didn't happen. But
Yeah.
now it's going to next year.
Where's your trip? Where are you going?
Egypt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Someplace I've never been.
My partner, he grew up in Dubai, so he likes the heat.
Yeah. Okay.
He's Welsh, but grew up in Dubai.
We've just started traveling. I mean, great distances. I've never been to Europe until, well, I'm going next month, but I've never been. So you've been places I haven't been. But I like it because
Yeah,
I think what it does is we talked earlier about how you're able to visit with people like this. Like right now, it's almost 6 o'clock in the evening there in Wales where you are, and it's
yeah,
almost 11 o'clock in the morning for me. Just that alone, I think, is very
yeah.
interesting.
It's
And
crazy.
yeah, and as you get out and meet other people and you spend just a few minutes visiting and talking, you see you have so many things. You have more in common than you have
Yeah,
differences, I believe.
yeah, definitely. I mean, my son, my eldest, is in America at the moment. He's over there, and it's just like feels really weird for me.
Yeah.
You're closer in time to him at the moment than I am because he's in Houston.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's probably closer in time
Yeah.
than I am.
He's just 1 hour different from us. Yep.
Yeah,
Well, Debbie,
definitely.
hey, thanks so much for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it. I know my listeners have enjoyed hearing your story today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. All right, everyone. Hey, check back in 2 weeks. We'll have another interesting guest here on Nobody Knows Your Story.
Down a little country road not far away.